Audio drama dialogue, do's and don'ts. Audio drama, or radio drama, is a truly strange medium of storytelling. It is a hybrid of the stage play and the feature film, but is most of all closely related to pure music and by extension poetry. One of the strangest features of audio drama is how it relies entirely on dialogue to communicate meaning in the story, and yet its dialogue is entirely different from that used in any other medium. This video is not a dissection of how audio drama dialogue compares with dialogue in other storytelling mediums, though I would relish making such a video. This video is instead simply what it says in the title, what to do when writing audio drama dialogue and what not to do. So let's start with the do's of audio drama dialogue. We'll do 3 of them, and then talk about 3 corresponding don'ts. Do the first, do keep the dialogue concise. Old-time radio scriptwriters used to limit each line of dialogue to only 3 or 4 lines of text on the pages of the script. This was meant to create sharp, fast, rapid-fire exchanges of speech, which would keep the listener riveted to the radio set and without turning the radio dial. I believe that this design sensibility of dialogue, that is, to keep it almost hyper-concise, is an aesthetic virtue, if only because writing dialogue this way tends to replicate how people communicate in real life. McWhinnie, in his book The Art of Radio, has opined that dialogue in radio drama is in fact the most realistic dialogue out of all of the mediums. People in a properly constructed radio play talk basically like people in real life talk. Monologues and soliloquies work so poorly in radio drama most of the time because people in real life get bored and restless when other people actually do monologue. Do the second, use a narrator. Narrators are not your enemy. I understand that a lot of authorities in audio drama and radio drama detest the use of a narrator in the script, but I believe such reservations are misplaced. Of course, a narrator can be used poorly, but there are plenty of examples of a narrator being used correctly. The best way to use a narrator is to make the narrator the first-person protagonist of the story, like Jack Hawkins in Treasure Island. It is important when using a narrator to make him an active character within the story. The American Golden Age radio show Suspense did this all the time with excellent results. Why shouldn't you use it? Why shouldn't you use it in your show? It helps you to save a lot of time and to tell more interesting stories. Do the third, limit your cast size. As I said in one of my previous videos, you need to keep a sharp limit on the number of named characters in your script. It gives producers, casting directors, and audio editors a solid foundation on which to do their best work by eliminating a great evil from your show, one or more characters getting confused with other characters because they have a similar sounding voice. I won't go into the natural limitations that such a methodology creates with radio dramas because we have to get to the don'ts, but I would like to make another video discussing the topic in detail. So, the 3 corresponding don'ts. Don't the first, don't fill your script with long soliloquies and monologues. The reason soliloquies and monologues get tiresome in most radio dramas or audio dramas is because audio as a medium is highly reactive. What that means is that listeners reward stories which are a careful balance of riveting, funny, edgy, and poignant. If people who listen to your radio play feel like they're watching a pair of Olympic ice skaters in action, you're on the right track. But if you try to produce a script which has dialogue akin to a Shakespeare play, but without the poetic artistry and dramatic weight, you are dead on arrival. This describes my freshman effort, Son of Ye, Son of Pongu. It sounded so much like an audiobook that listening to it felt like homework. Incidentally, Shakespeare plays work great as radio drama adaptations, but I once corresponded with a veteran BBC producer who vehemently assured me that Shakespeare's methods were unique to his time and should not be replicated today in new plays. Don't the second. Don't pathologically avoid the use of a narrator. I listened to the early episodes of a lot of true crime and science fiction audio dramas made in the 21st century which worked very, very, very hard to avoid employing a narrator. The results are torturous. Why? Because refusing to use a narrator forces you to make your characters twist themselves in the knots, explaining to the listener what the heck is going on in the story by talking to each other about facts they already know. If you could just invent an interesting point of view character and make them the narrator, you could cut out so much insufferable narrative fat and actually tell a good story. Don't the third. Do not employ a bloated cast size with many named characters. I do not suggest this because your audience cannot keep track of a large cast, which they can if they avidly read novels or watch television shows. I am suggesting this because radio plays and audio dramas are not like either of those things, despite sharing some elements. Too many similar voice types will just create confusion and chaos. I guess it could be argued that dramatically expanding the runtime of a radio show or audio drama, such as by making a podcast movie, could provide a remedy for the need to limit the cast size. But the point of this rule is that if you ever do a scene where the entire cast is present, the effort will flummox the audience and baffle them. It's one thing to have a dozen characters on set in an episode of Mad Men, but it's a completely different thing to try that in an audio drama. You can't see the characters, so you can't use their faces, body types, and clothing styles as a shorthand for each character's personality. In audio drama and radio drama, you just have voices, and voices alone, and maybe leitmotifs. You need to be disciplined in how many named characters you have in the story. That is my 5th video on audio drama. Went a bit long, didn't it? Thanks you for listening. I'm Levi Sweeney. Cheerio!